The one not in yet.
Yeah.
I have to restart my.
Yeah. So whatever we do in the Green Award, we must also know where the money is. No, we need money to run the commercialize the good idea that we have got. Then Chen will be there. You arrange for us European fund.
Oh, okay.
Then can you unmute yourself and say a few words before we start?
I'm not sure you guys realize, but all the governments are all printing money at the moment. Yeah, all the so-called government-friendly stimulus and all that, and all this money have to go somewhere. Okay, and the project that have SDG goals, as in United Nations goals, or ESG impact, environmental, social governance type of projects, you will have a huge amount of funds out there, not just European, but over US as well, is looking for viable projects of this nature. So if you set up your outfit platform properly, and you have the narrative to justify what you are trying to do, then you get all this money will be coming after you.
So we can need your advice, we can need your service, Chen.
Yeah. We work through with NPC, too.
Yeah, work through me, I'm the agent.
he get 20%.
I'm a pro bono.
Just joking.
For me, the pro bono agent, and you work through me, you get free lunch. So you come to Zouk Noodle House, the best noodle house in the Klang Valley.
but I must say that I really appreciate Chu's effort in getting the public-private partnership with the government in terms of the building up the professional services for Malaysia. I think this pandemic has really shaken everybody. I can't put any more significant to what I just said, because really it changes the whole game plan, whole rule of the game for everybody. It's not up to you to say that I'm going to do it or I'm able to control it.
Okay.
International trade is different already.
Okay. Xiaofeng, you want me to start?
Yeah. Maybe I'll just introduce you.
Okay.
I think everyone knows you. Okay. I think it's 10 o'clock. A very good morning to fellow participants, as well as also council members of AAET. Welcome to our second AAET Green Award, a breakfast chat series with our past winners of AAET Green Award. And today is our second series. And we have two guest speakers with us today. And before we actually move on to the speakers' introduction and of course the slide presentation from them, just a bit of house rule. Please mute your mic if you are not speaking. And we have a Q&A session after the speech. And feel free to unmute and ask questions to our speakers, or you can also put inside the comment box as well. So once again, a very good morning to fellow participants. And to start off our event today, I'd like to invite the chairman of the steering committee of the AAET Green Award 2021, who's none other than engineer academician, Engineer Chu Kok Beng, who's also the vice president of ASEAN Academy of Engineering and Technology, AAET, as well as also the CEO of Malaysian Service Providers Confederation. So over to you, Engineer Chu, for the welcoming address.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everybody to our second AAET Green Award. For those who have just joined us, I will just take a few minutes to trace back the history of this award. We started about 8 years ago, and we had with us as partner the Malaysian-China Chamber of Commerce. And the purpose of this award is actually to, at that time, 8 years ago, people are not so conscious about climate change and all these things, even though it was a very hot topic. So we decided that this is the way to go. We have to play a role in making sure that AAET can contribute significantly to climate change through some kind of activity. So we thought the Green Award would be very good, and then we make sure our focus was on the young. So those days, 8 years ago, we defined young as 40 years old. So maybe now you all may want to change it to 45 because the lifespan of human beings keep on expanding, keep on expanding, lengthening and lengthening. So maybe 40 may be a too early cutoff date. So we started with that, and we are very successful. Every year we get winners from almost all the ASEAN countries. And today we have about, I think in our record, about nearly 40 of these past winners. And we have been tracking the process of the past winners. The winners must show that they are very passionate about something that to do with green technology. Not necessarily that they must be scientists or they must be a very highly qualified person, but as long as you are involved in communal activities that promote greening the environment, encouraging the government to think green to make sure that the conservation of the the nature, you can qualify. So we even have journalists as a winner from Myanmar. So this is, and then we also got somebody who is teaching in the schools to teach to become an Asian Green Award. Now, we have been tracking all this, keeping in touch with all these Green Award winners, and then recently there is an emerging young leader, which is Engineer Yao Chang Fong. He came up with this idea that why don't we have breakfast talks, and give a chance for our winners, past winners, to highlight what are the great achievements that they have done after they have got the award. It may be because of the award or not because of the award, never mind, but I think they have done some great things. So we decided that this was a good way to go, and as a result of which we are now having the second breakfast talk. Now, believe me, when I attended the first breakfast talk of 3 of our great winners, our past winners, I was so fascinated that they on their own have made it in the world. They have done very well. Why is it that our fellows of AAET are not aware of it? Many of our fellows are also in the business community. Why don't they use this as great ideas, great startup ideas, and then perhaps they could have benefited from this. So that was a very good experience for me. So I think this is going to be something, a regular session where we have this breakfast award or whatever, breakfast meeting or whatever we call it, give opportunity for our awardees to highlight what they have done in cleaning the environment. So today, in the light of the pandemic, I think this kind of a communication system becomes very popular. We don't have to invite people to one particular place, fly from all over the ASEAN countries, waste a lot of time flying and staying in hotels and getting fat for no reason. You can just go on Zoom and you can talk to one another. Now, what I want to point out at this second award is that I noticed that many of our fellows are now attending breakfast talk. What I want to highlight here is that I have invited Shan Lim. He's, for those who have logged in a bit later, he's handling a lot of European funds for looking at what good ideas, startups and all these things. And one of the areas that they are really very particular, very in favor of is anything to do with the environment. He has just mentioned it just now. There's lots of money. So I hope that this message will be disseminated to all our AAET fellows and associate members, and also especially the award winners. If they are in a way needing some investors to come in to bring their ideas further up and perhaps become icons in the industry, there is a source of money that we have ready. So I was just joking that you have to come through me, but don't have to come through me. You can just go direct to Yao Chang Fong. I think he's beginning to take over the role of championing this award already. Now, the last thing I want to say is that we started this as a small initiative, and today this is already grown into a bigger initiative. And the Council of AAET at its last meeting has recognized this as one of its flagship events. So AAET Green Award is going to be a flagship event of AAET. So we'll be organizing every year. And I think the way we organize will change because the leadership is younger now. Not I'm just sharing and giving some guidance, but the young people have taken over managing this award. And the other flagship event that the AAET has got is our Kuala Lumpur Engineering Science Fair, which has actually grown very big. We had the last event that we had 13 countries, I think, taking part. This is the one of the ways we are using to promote science, promote science and technology to parents, to students, and all this stuff. So the Kuala Lumpur, the ASEAN Green Award will be the second flagship event of AAET. So we hope to add on another 1 or 2 more, and that will keep the academia very well known around as long as it survives. Okay, back to you, Chao Fong. I think I took a little bit longer than usual.
No problem, Engineer Chu. I think,
please.
thank you, Engineer Chu, for the introduction and, of course, a welcoming address, a very well explained introduction about history, as well also the upcoming Green Award initiatives and so on. So without further ado, I believe I won't be spending too much time to speak further, because the highlights of today is our 2 speakers today. The 2 speakers today, which is actually none other than Dr. Yang and, of course, Mr. Alvin Long. So let's start our first speaker. Our first speaker is none other than Associate Professor Dr. Yang Hui Ying from Singapore. A little bit on Dr. Yang. She is actually the Program Director of Nano Electronic Engineering and Design of the Singapore University of Technology and Design. Also the Clean Room Director of Singapore of the University of Technology and Design, SUTD. And of course, she was our country winner of AAET Green Award in 2013. And today, she's going to present to us a short topic on future energy storage techniques, which I'll pass over the control to Dr. Yang. Dr. Yang,
Thank you.
The screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yu, Dr. Chong, and all the members. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
okay.
The screen is ready. Maybe you can put in the presentation mode.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's my great honor to come back to the Green Award session. And last time I was the winner in 2013. And I was so excited to see all the members, fellows in this AAET event. I was benefit from the AAET Green Award because I believe I'm one of the pioneer batch of award winners. So, and then from this award, AAET award, I received a lot of more recognitions and then report in Singapore. So I'm very honored to be back, and then I'm very happy to share about my experience as well. So the topic for today is future energy storage technique. So as we all know, lithium-ion battery is a very important energy storage device currently utilized in many different kinds of electronics device, including electrical vehicle. So basically, the basic setup for lithium-ion battery is very simple. You have an anode, you have a cathode, and then you have a separator in between. And then you have the current collector and cell can, and then you can form a lithium-ion battery. So when you discharge and charge the battery, the lithium ions will travel from anode to cathode and travel back later, and that form a whole cycle of lithium-ion battery cycling. But currently, there are a lot of bottlenecks for lithium-ion battery. For example, the electron transport efficiency in solid, ionic diffusion in liquid and solid, and then solid electrolyte interface, structure volume change, strain and stress, and also safety control for lithium-ion battery. So regardless of the effort and research effort, and then also commercial effort from both research institutions and then companies, there are still a lot of space for the further innovations and then ideas to explore the different areas for the lithium-ion batteries. At the same time, the lithium-ion batteries, lithium-ion battery market price is actually increasing significantly year by year, especially when the launch of a new generation electrical vehicles like the Tesla cars, and that's really sort of trigger the next phase for the innovation and research in lithium-ion battery. And recently in the June 2020 Tesla Battery Day, and the founder of Tesla cars, Elon Musk, he announced the 1 million mile battery pack. That means that with per charge of this battery pack, you can travel for 1 million miles, with the continuous years. So with one particular battery pack, that means that your car will be enabled by this battery pack with high performance for 1 million sort of miles. And that is a very significant milestone. In terms of Tesla cars, we can see that the Tesla car is actually a very effective cars compared to the internal combustion engine cars that we are utilized today. So the major parts for Tesla car is the bottom battery pack, which is from the whole bottom of this Tesla car, and then another motor of this Tesla car, and then the whole setup is very simple. So compared to the conventional cars, Tesla car is only having a few parts instead of 100 or 200 parts compared to the conventional cars. And then also because of the setup, the model type of these Tesla cars, Tesla car can increase the car, the speed from 0 to 200 kilowatts per hour in a few seconds, and that is comparable to any fashionable sports cars. So I would expect that the Tesla cars will be dominating the car market in the next few years. And in the same time, because of the Tesla cars, lithium-ion battery, in fact, is going to go for another sort of a phase of innovations and then expanding for the market. So the Tesla battery pack is formed by the small Tesla like lithium-ion batteries. So they call this Tesla lithium-ion battery 4860. 48 is actually the diameter in the sort of like circle shape in the bottom, and 60 is the height for the battery. So, and then for current Tesla cars, we are looking at certain parameters. And then, of course, there are targeting parameters for the future Tesla batteries as well. So when we list down, there are certain factors, from this table that we can see that the current energy density for commercial batteries and then also the electrical vehicle battery is 220 watt hour per kilogram. And then the cell cost is 130, US dollar per kilowatt hour. And then the cycle lifetime is around 7 years, 7 to 10 years currently. The charging rate is like 1 to 2 hours. So when you want to fully charge your car, you may use around 1 to 2 hours. And then for safety control, the current cars, they have safety controls by this battery maintenance system. But then if you look at the battery alone, they, the individual cells, they don't have the safety control. And then also when we're looking at electrical vehicles, to prevent the further damage to the human inside the vehicle, we may think about when we have a car accident happened, there will be sufficient like a large amount of structure or volume change for the car, and then we need to create sufficient buffer layer or the sufficient accommodation for this structure change for the battery if possible. And the other thing is flexibility and customize the shape for the battery. Currently, these are not available. So the future target, of course, will be increase expanding all these parameters we have, we want to have large energy density, lower cell cost, longer cycle lifetime to 15 to 25 or even 50 years. And then the charging rate will be less than 10 minutes. So you can charge your car within a very short time, a few minutes, and then drive for a whole day. And then we also want to have safety function for individual cells. And then we also want to accommodate, the structure volume change for the any of the car accident may happen. And also we want to have customized shape or flexibility. There is a very sort of basic equation to compute the different energy sort of controlled factor in this lithium-ion battery. So this equation is called E equal to V cross Q. So E is energy, V is voltage, basically is the window voltage between cathode to anode, and Q is the charge. So fundamentally, it's very simple. If you want to have a large E, you are going to have a large V, which is the voltage window between cathode and anode, and then or you want to have a larger Q. That means the large amount of the charge you can store in the anode or cathode electrode. And then, of course, ideally, you want to have both high V and high Q, and that will have give you a much higher E. So what the researchers are doing currently is to trying to increase all these parameters. We want to have a high voltage window between the two electrodes. We want to have a large amount of charge stored in the electrode material, and we want to have a flexible or customized electrode design, and then use another metal source, for example, to replace lithium source that will significantly reduce this resource cost. For example, lithium, which is a very rare metal on the earth, and the cost to buying lithium is much higher than buying other widely available metal ions, for example, sodium, for example, aluminum, for example, zinc. All these are widely available metals. And the other one is we want to implement safety control in the lithium-ion battery. So we want to have new manufacturing techniques and then new effective materials for lithium-ion batteries. So currently in the cathode material, people are utilizing lithium copper oxide, lithium manganese oxide, and lithium iron phosphide. And the other materials now is very hot in this cathode field is lithium nickel oxide, so which is currently utilized in the Tesla cars. And then the future positive electrode people can think about is sulfur. Sulfur is have this theoretical capacity 1,670 milliampere hour program, so which is 10 times higher than the current other sort of lithium copper, lithium manganese, and lithium iron phosphide, or even lithium nickel cathode. And then the other electrode we are working on is anode. So currently people utilize graphite. For example, our laptop, our phones, we utilize graphite. Oh, this layer-shaped graphite. Some people call that graphene battery, but then that is not a single layer graphene. That is stacking or like layers structure of graphene. And that can give you a few hundred milliampere hour programs, 370 to 400 milliampere hour program. So, and then the future negative electrode will have 10 times higher capacity. And the potential electrode we are looking at is silicon, which can give you 4,200 milliampere hour program. And then also lithium metal, which is also around 4,000 milliampere hour program. And then for Tesla cars, they are utilized the silica currently, and the combination of silica and graphite has also proved to give the Tesla car around 700 milliampere hour program the capacities. Of course, the way towards 4,000 or like 3,000 milliampere hour program is still far. So from now on, maybe from in the next 3 to 5 years, we can reach that target. So my research group in SUTD, we are working on low dimensional nanomaterial for lithium-ion battery or the battery systems beyond the lithium-ion batteries. So we are looking at, nanoparticles, sort of layered structure like graphene or graphene oxide, and three-dimensional structure. So the combination of carbon nanotube, graphene oxide, graphene, and nanoparticles, a combination of all these composite together. So we have been working on the morphology evolution for the structure to having impact on the capacities and cycle lifetimes. We have been working on the in situ systems like in situ Raman, in situ XRD to generate the in situ image when we do charge and discharge in the battery. And then we have studied the mechanism for ion storage, like the high resolution TEM system to do the sort of high resolution image to see the structure expanding inside the electrode material. And then we have also been working on the kinetic analysis by this theoretical computation and then mechanism analysis at atomic levels. So we have also been working on prototyping for different lithium-ion batteries or the system beyond the lithium-ion batteries. For example, foldable lithium-ion battery, capo-shaped lithium sodium-ion battery and lithium-ion battery, and 3D printable batteries, and then supercapacitors. So our lab have been equipped with equipment to generate the raw production, raw material, and then lower scale production for all these different type of batteries. So I want to give a few examples today. So for example, one particular example we have here is we have our synthesized a nanoparticle combined with a graphene, a three-dimensional graphene system for flexible lithium-ion battery. So the system we are utilize is we utilize a chemical vapor deposition system, a CVD system to generate graphene and three-dimensional graphene. And then after three-dimensional graphene is synthesized, we doped with germanium oxide and nickel nanoparticles. And then also after utilize generate this nickel nanoparticle, we coat another layer of or like a graphene oxide, nitrogen doped graphene. So what we have is two layers of nitrogen doped graphene, and in the middle we have these nanoparticles, nickel nanoparticles, and further reduction will generate a nickel metal nanoparticles, and that form a three-dimensional electrode for these lithium-ion batteries. So with these three-dimensional lithium-ion batteries, we can see that the lithium ions actually can travel in three dimensions, X, Y, and Z, not only X, Y direction. That will give us another layer of freedom when we do the ion transport in these lithium-ion batteries. And then also we have studied the volume expansion because germanium actually have a 400% of volume change when it has been charged with lithium to generate this lithium germanium. And then we have observed that with this two layer of this graphene oxide or nitrogen doped graphene, we can see that the void space has been filled up when we charge this lithium germanium nanoparticles. And after we discharge this germanium nanoparticle, and the void space has been regenerated. In the other battery system we are working on is lithium sulfur battery system. So we can see that the sulfur, as I explained earlier, has a capacity 10 times higher than current the cathode we are utilizing. Another very important factor for this sulfur is sulfur powder is actually widely available on the earth, and the price is very cheap. So, but then there are like certain issues with lithium sulfur battery. So when we use lithium as cathode, there are three major challenges. The first one is the soluble lithium polysulfide. So polysulfide being generated, combined together with lithium to generate the lithium polysulfide, which is soluble. So when you utilize the lithium metal as your anode and sulfur as your cathode, and then when you do the charging and discharge, when you generate lithium polysulfide, and that will be dissolved in the electrode in another words, that when you charge and discharge your battery electrode getting smaller and smaller, and that is a kind of scenario for current system for lithium sulfur battery. And of course, that is a very sort of negative point for lithium sulfur battery as well. So we want to change that kind of scenario to make lithium sulfur battery being stable and then function, start from beginning to the end. And the other factor is most of the lithium sulfur battery has been combined in a flammable electrolyte system. So the electrolyte is highly flammable, and that will be very easy to catch fire. So it's very unsafe to utilize such batteries in the electrical vehicle. And then the other thing is, the other main challenge for lithium sulfur battery is the safety control for the lithium, pure lithium anode is still lacking currently. So the general strategies to try to rectify this three challenge is surpass the lithium dendrite formation, that is targeting as this lithium anode material. And then for the electrolyte, we want to design solid or jelly-like electrolyte. And then for sulfur, we want to make a physical trapping, and then the sulfur will be confined in this physical trapping, no matter it's carbon or it's polymer, and the sulfur being confined in such trapping system that will prevent the polysulfide dissolution and then go into the electrolyte eventually. So we have for our research group, we have been focusing on all three methods to improve the current lithium sulfur battery. So we have designed the cathode design, and that will having a trapping system to keep the sulfur inside either carbon or manganese outside. That will have a very positive impact to generate a very high sort of stability for lithium sulfur battery, and also have this high surface area for chemical interaction and fast lithium ion diffusion. We have also focusing on electrolyte design, and the electrolyte design is anti-flaming, is providing a very stable electrolyte. At the same time, we have also provide a very stable lithium anode, with a protection layer, and that will be very safe for implement such lithium sulfur battery in these electrical vehicles. So we have also generate a PP membrane, decorate with nickel cobalt sulfur, and that will prevent the soluble, lithium polysulfide to go through from one end to another, and that will further confine this generated lithium polysulfide to be trapped inside one terminal, for example, the cathode terminal, and that won't go through the anode terminal to prevent the further, dissolve of this long-chain polysulfide. And then, so this is a full battery combination. We have this lithium soil. We have this decorated, sort of membrane or separator for the battery. And then we have the cathode design. So that gave us a very high, ultra high stability and then capacity for this lithium sulfur battery. And then we can power electrical motor. And then particularly recently, we have used our lithium sulfur battery to power the unmanned UAV in SUTD, and then received a very long sort of flying time for this lithium sulfur battery. So the other sort of system we are looking at is actually we are trying to have a sodium battery design. So because the current bottleneck for lithium-ion battery is the lithium metal is a very expensive metal ions. So when we utilize a large amount of lithium ions in this battery system, our cost for the entire battery system will not be sufficient low. The reason for that is the raw material is too expensive. So what we are trying to do is we try to utilize the widely available metal ions, for example, sodium, to replace this sort of lithium. So one particular example I'm showing here is the sodium-ion battery with the silicon membrane as the anode material. So most of the time, people will think silicon is actually a good storage materials for lithium, but not a good storage material for sodium. The reason for that is the lithium has a very small radius for the metal ions, but sodium has a large sort of radius for this metal ions. So with a large radius for metal ions, it's very difficult for this sodium to incorporate into the lattice structure for silicon. So in that way, the silicon structure is very sort of tough in response to the insertion of sodium, and then it's very difficult for the sodium to incorporate into that system. And then what we have found out is that we can generate a amorphous silicon sort of membrane structure with a lot of dangling bonds, and those bonds will generate a chemical combination with sodium and bond this sodium to the silicon structure. So the amorphous silicon, in fact, is a very effective material as an anode for sodium-ion battery. And the other sort of structure we are looking at is a microtrans structure by a selective reduction strategy, so that we can selectively reduct certain parts of the whole structure and make the structure is very useful and very responsive to this sodium incorporation. And that will be very effective for sodium-ion battery as well. So this reduction process have been selectively reduct certain parts for the cube structure, as I'm showing here, as the center part of the cube, and also the 6 faces of the cube, and that generates channels for the sodium ions to incorporate into the system and generate a very fast transportations.
Dr. Yang, you have another 5 minutes.
Okay. So I will try to speed up a little bit. I'm sorry. So I prepare a rather long presentation today. Okay. So, and then in fact, we receive a very stable performance for this sodium storage system. And then we have also been working on sort of morph structure, which is a 3D structure covered with graphene layers for this sodium and storage. So the last part, I want to show a little bit on 3D printing of battery. So 3D printing is a faster prototyping process to generate any of the electronic device or any of this in general device. So for us, we are working on 3D printing of battery, which will give you sort of any shape of the battery you want to make and with any capacity you want to build in to your system. So one particular example I'm showing here is our carbon nanotube and graphene oxide ink that we designed in our lab, and that give you a very fast sort of a prototyping of your battery system. And then the other thing we are looking at is, generating a compressible structure that will give you compressibility when the battery being compressed or being shrunk in certain extreme conditions. So what we are looking at, one is a flexible battery, so we can print the electrode on top of this, flexible polymers PDMS, and that will give you a full package of a flexible battery. And the other one we are looking at is compressible battery. So we generate anode and cathode, and then both of them are compressible and combined in together to form a compressible battery. So with the compressible battery, we can actually compress the whole battery for 60%. And then when we release, this battery will be fully recovered, and that gave us a lot of flexibility when we design for electrical vehicles or UVAs, because eventually when the vehicle is hit by another sort of a very hard structure, and the whole structure will be compressed, the compressible battery will be able to compress together with the vehicle and later regenerate. And then we have also utilized our battery to power soft robotics. One particular example I'm showing you here is that we have utilized our battery to power a soft fish Actually, the fish is 3D printed as well. So we use a 3D printer to print a fish, and then the battery has been embedded in the fish. So the whole structure, I was working with one of my colleagues in SUTD. So they have been, fully utilized this fish as a sensor and put into the ocean. I think this is a very interesting application for soft robotics together with soft battery as well. So the last part, I want to show a very short part on the safety control that we designed. So we have make like a temperature sensitive ink by a forward 3D printer and printed on the membrane. So we have this, a sort of spherical shape after we use 3D printer to print this temperature sensitive polymer. And the temperature sensitive polymer will melt when the temperature go above 90 degrees. And then when this polymer melt, they will become, sort of slurry shape and then go into the pores to the membrane and block the pores. So once the pores are blocked, and there will be no transportation for ions from anode to cathode, so the battery will be shut down, or the battery will sort of stop working. So this is the design for temperature sensitive polymer ink. And then after that, we have utilized the 3D printer to print this sort of ink on top of this electrode. And after that, we have done this shutdown function testing. So within 90 seconds, we can fully shut down the batteries. So, when you have this high temperature trigger the sort of melting for this temperature sensitive polymer. And that is a very interesting and then also effective way for realize the safety control in the individual cells. So what will happen in the future? So I believe there are many things, still need a lot of researchers and scientists to work on. For example, how to integrate the high performance printable like a battery to any of the electronic device. How about all solid battery by printing, or by the sort of a traditional way of generating the electrode, and also the fast charging batteries, and then utilize sodium, manganese, also aluminum, zinc to replace lithium in these different battery systems. There are still a lot of space for us to do research and innovation, and there are oceans of opportunities, I believe. So last, I want to thank my researchers and then funding support to my research group. And then I also want to thank the Green Award. So thank you for the strong support from Green Award as well. So I have this opportunity to collaborate with a lot of collaborators, through this recognition of this AAET Green Award in 2013, when I was just a young researcher. So I really feel very grateful for all the support, and hope to use my knowledge and expertise to contribute to ANET in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yang, for such an interesting topic on the energy storage, especially 3D batteries. I believe our participants have heard a lot from Dr. Yang. We'll leave the questions Q&A session after our next speaker. So just get hold of your questions. We will actually open the Q&A session after this. So let us move on to our next speaker of the day, who is none other than Mr. Alvin Long. Wait, let me see. So the next speaker is Dr. Alvin Long. He is actually a PhD researcher at this moment. He is also an entrepreneur, country winner of AAET Green Award 2014. He's from Malaysia. And today he's going to share with us on another topic on energy, on how to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, 10, and 17, using the hexahelix innovation model with an appropriate RE technology and energy transition approach. So with this, I'd like to hand over the screen to Mr. Alvin for the next topic. Mr. Alvin, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Young. All right.
Yep, the
Are
screen
you
is
able to
there.
see my screen?
Yep, you can put it into the presentation mode.
Right.
Okay,
Excellent.
good. Yep.
A very good morning. Okay. Right. Again, my topic is about achieving SDG 7, 10, 17. It's mouthful. Yeah, I believe so. But the focus is on two main areas. That is appropriate technology using the hexahelix model and energy transition approach. Okay, let me just introduce myself by going back in 2014. That was when I first gotten myself into this award. And I thank the organizer, AAET, as well as MCCC, for the opportunity that I'm able to showcase the things that I do. At that point in time, I was at the crossroad, right? I was resigning from a multinational company, Johnson Controls. And then I was in the pursuit of doing what is passionate, that is sustainability. So what I did back then, I do some crazy stuff, follow my passion in living green. I go all the way back to a small little kampong, performing my research on micro-architecture, as well as building container homes, geodesic dome, composting toilet, etc., etc. And then raising chicken, raising goats, and farming, okay? In the meantime, I was juggling my research and running my business on energy. I was doing my business as an energy consultant, doing sustainability management program, and also performing assessment for the ASEAN energy system. So fast forward 2021, I'm still doing some of this crazy stuff, woodworking, metalworking, as well as research and teaching my children right now, especially when they are doing homeschooling, and running my company. I have a company that is being qualified as an ESCO and certified green under the My Hijau certificate, which is equivalent to the green certificate in Singapore. The focus that I do as a company was energy procurement, energy conservation, energy efficiency, and particularly for this coming post-pandemic session, I believe that energy performance contracting is actually coming to become more of a trend. And last but not least, to close the whole loop, that's when I assist my customer to achieve certification. All right, now come to the main topic for the day. So let me just introduce what exactly is this all about. It is about sustainable development. It's about SDG, global, national, and local. You see, many a times when we talk about SDG, sustainable development goals, we always look at things which are on a global scale. Then very seldom we hear much coming from the national, and then what more when in local. So the focus that I wanted to look at is particularly on 7, 10, and 17, is that 68 to 76% of the GHG greenhouse gas emission derive from actually power generation. While we aspire to hit 100% electrification, we are still basically about 98%. People say that it's just 2% away, but 2% is equivalent to a population of 3.35 million, is 700,000 Malaysians living without electricity. I think this is an alarming figure, right? If you look at individual is someone that is indivisible. We're not looking at it as a nation or even a state. Sabah among all is actually one of the poorest, and they happen to be having the highest anxiety system interruption duration index, as well as interior-most part of Borneo, which I heard from a few of my NGO interviewees, as well as the government, is close to 50% of them are without electricity. Right, the stark correlation between electricity and socio-economic, I think no one can deny. And my research was basically towards the Tagal communities, which is a traditional way of living sustainably, and how do we encourage these people to sustain this kind of living? So this is how the research is all about. So how? We're looking at this energy transition approach, which I will explain later, focusing on SDG 7 and also the call for a 20% renewable energy by 2025, a national goal. It is also through hexahelix. Hexahelix is actually a model, an innovation model, using different actors and different institutions in order to come to the same goal. While the dissertation provide a sustainable energy through framework, policy, and technology. Okay, so the research objective, SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy. 10 is reduce inequalities. 17 is partnership for the goals. So for 7, we are looking at energy transition approach, and the solution will be looking at renewable and technologies using micro hydro system. While the location talk about reducing inequalities is actually Sabah and Tagal communities to be specific. And Hexa Helix model is talking about getting the right people, the right actors involved towards the same goal. So the study area is in Tambunan. It's a beautiful place, right? It just sandwiched between two Crocker Range and Trismadi, that you have beautiful spring water flowing through, and it is a place where it is really green, sustainable. If I'm given a choice to live, I think that would be a better place to live than in Kuala Lumpur. And 5 villages were being shortlisted together with the local authority for this research. So the hypothesis is to aspire to provide these rural communities, especially those with a heritage, to have this Tagal system continuing on by giving them a little bit improvement on the socio-economic using the existing renewable energy framework that is already available. Let's talk about the problem statement. Okay, electricity, as we discussed, it has a direct impact with more than 700,000 people being impacted, and Sabah ranked the poorest and the highest in system analyzed interruption duration index. On top of it, we have complicated problem that requires different sectors to be involved. That's why Hexa Helix is being utilized. And here we are looking at how all this can actually come together as a perfect storm to help these particular communities, looking into affordable and clean energy in Malaysia. All right, so the first question that we are talking about is what kind of energy transition are we having right now in Malaysia? Is it specifically to help this group of people? And then the objective is to ascertain appropriate energy transition approach, which Malaysia has not declared or embraced any of it at this point in time. The target is to hit 100% electrification, has been the aspiration since 1957, but we have more or less swayed away, not thinking that it is important to hit that 2%. 20% RE by 2025. It is achievable if we continue to do an LSS, and the big boys will continue to have lots of money. But then again, it still does not touch the 100% electrification. Okay, and the problem is, of course, Sabah SAIDI, Sabah socioeconomic and inequalities amongst rural communities. The second research question is how to gain unity in the diversity among myriad of actors and stakeholders, especially during this transition approach that we could have shortlisted. Then the solution, the objective is to apply this multi-helix model. The question number 3 is, what are the key components that we can do in order for us to achieve this? Then we are to formulate a socio-economic centric electrification framework and model that we may help achieve 7 and 10. Okay, the methodology, let me not bore you. I'm not a full-fledged academician as well, so I find this really taxing. Okay, it is a grounded theory, meaning that I actually go to the ground to find out exactly what I'm supposed to research. It sounds funny, right? But then through the interviews, I interviewed the government bodies, I interviewed the academician, the private sector, the NGOs, and the sponsors to derive on the possible energy transition approach that is most suitable. At the same time, I had a focus group with communities, 5 of them, managed to achieve only 2 because of the MCO and so on, but more focusing on the socio-economic needs. From there, I was trying to fashion out a renewable energy electrification framework. So here, I bring back and go back to the same team of people on social, technical, and political aspect of energy transition approach, while looking into feed-in tariff or net energy metering or whatever kind of existing system that is available, and capacity building back to the community. That is how it will derive and arrive to 7, 10, and 17 as an achievable goal. Okay, let's talk about the first discussion, energy transition. All right, large topic. From the literature review, there are actually 3 types of energy transition. Techno-economic. Okay, techno-economic is a traditional business model, grid connected. Everyone knows about it. That's exactly how we are doing, right? It's monopoly, then it's going towards privatization, liberalization, while adopting renewable energy, and that is the way to reach SDG. While political and policy aspect, it is about social, energy security. In the latter years, probably like what Achu was saying, most recent, that's when sustainability had become a favorite song. That's when liberalization is being discussed, and we have not arrived. Social technical, on the other end, is actually a private SME-driven model. It focuses a lot on off-grid, microgrid, and energy demand, and then energy democracy. So that is the approach. If we were to overlap that with Malaysia, this is how it looks like. We have LLN, then privatization, we have TNB. From TNB, we go and sign PPAs, which is a power purchase agreement with IPPs. Then from there, you have fuel efficiency, while we're talking about how to optimize fuel, what is the best price to charge, and then so on and so forth. And we share the infrastructure among customers. And still, we have not achieved liberalization. But renewable energy has really been tapped in with LSS as well as NEM. All right. So, and our national interest has always been about energy security and energy policy being upgraded. The fifth fuel was being introduced back in 2008, and MESI and renewable energy policy, feed-in tariff, NEM, MESI 2.0. And of course, with the past regime, we have SESI, which is specifically focusing on Sabah electrification, which is ideal. But then again, it was short-lived, right? Then it brings down to sustainability. So now, the one that I like to bring to your attention is socio-economic, socio-technical aspect methodology. It is a SME private-driven, it's grid-connected, it could be off-grid and microgrid. And we focus on the energy democracy. And here, the majority of its technology focus upon renewable energy. All right, so that is where I would like to leave you. And then let's move on to multi-helix. So what is this about? It is where we're able to reduce inequality and talk about SDG 17. Okay, this particular model started out as triple helix. In the very beginning, it was by Excovix and Leathersoft. It was a private, government, and academician correlation. I think this is a very old model. Right after World War II, right, the government is losing its control by giving more control towards the academician with having industry or private sector to come in to give their needs and their advice. Later on, by Campbell, and that's where community is actually being inserted in. Not 1 year forward, that's where the media or the NGO is being inserted to actually come out with more sustainable solution that is linked to environment and also how it will actually go towards the same goal. And here, after my research, I realized that one key component is actually on the sponsorship. Yes, we have all these ideas. The government is willing to give approval. The private sector is coming out with the technology. Academician is willing to write down, measure, and verify all these together with the community and all. But how are we to do this project if there's no sponsorship? Right. From here, I actually went in and do this. I realized that it is really more than just 6. They're actually 12, because the government fraction, right? You can actually break them down to federal, the local authority, and the state. And they are all different mechanisms, different languages, and different way to communicate. It goes the same with academician. It's beyond just academician, you have research and also capacity building, right? But the community, we can split them up into 3 different categories of like senior, youth, and children. And most recently, I heard 45 now is considered as youth. And of course, while the sponsor, we can look at those clusters that would like to use it as a CSR program, while another one would be through grants, like what we have discussed earlier, through European Union grants and so on. Okay, so this is the theoretical framework. Having the energy transition approach being highlighted, there are 2 areas that we would like to focus on their actors. Here we have the 6 actors being identified. From there, we implement the hexahelix model for us to derive the actually 12 dodecahelix model. From there, we come out with a socio-economic centric renewable energy framework and policy, helping us to look into renewable energy technology, off-grid and microgrid, and energy democracy, as well as achieving sustainability. So this is the contribution to knowledge. When it first started off, triple helix is about knowledge economy, while quadruple helix is about knowledge society and knowledge democracy. Quintuple helix is about socio-ecological transition. And this model of hexahelix that I have deduced is about sustainable socio-economic development, right? Yeah, I'm green or sustainable, but I'm more on the Anthropocene kind of way, because it's like, what's the point of having everything sustainable, but it's not beneficial to the community? I think that is why I came out with this model. So the research that I have, I managed to get a very good relationship, a working relationship with the Sabah government, where they actually given an approval for the implementation on the sites that was being selected. So the research framework was I designed actually the aspiration and the roles and probably the new contribution that they would like to receive. Each and every actors or institution, they have their own aspiration. At the same time, they have their roles and also their contribution. That is when I try to match them up when I'm doing the hexahelix model. Yes, they want to achieve SDG, but how? Their policies are not in place, or the government do not see that as one of a priority. Even as SEDA, they have deployed FIT, and recently the FIT has come to an end. But here, that's when the feed-in tariff for social feed-in tariff is actually being introduced. All right. So the state government to achieve the SDG, more or less like the federal, is being replicated. But here, it is the rural electrification for sustainable development. When the engagement was being made, we actually had full stakeholders. There were actually 19 stakeholders involved. Because when you are touching the river, which is one of the most sacred components for the Orang Asli, and that's when everyone is involved and they are excited of the program. For them, of course, it is socio-economic that is most critical. So from there, I realized that there's a need for sponsors, and also the ideation and conceptual framework comes from the academician, while entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology know-how from the industry. I put my company here because, of course, there are other people who are involved. Okay, so, and the Tagal community, okay, is about sustainable socio-economic and sustainable heritage lifestyle. That is the one that we are looking at for the Tagal communities. The summation of the research is, yes, there's government involved. Together with the tripart, you have the federal, you have the state and the local authority, and then you have the other stakeholders within the government, and which is closely linked to the community. Here we have academician, industry, and sponsor, tying all the way back to the natural farming as well as the Tagal fishing community. So the novelty is added up a sponsor to the helix model of Campbell and Karanis, and that's where the hexahelix is being implemented here. So for this particular project, we actually tried out on the sponsor through CSR program and also AAIBE. AAIBE is a funding agency by the government where they collect the revenue derived from the independent power producer. And from there, they actually launched it out for new technology, such as Dr. Yangson, or even ideas that will help the community. Okay, so these are some of the places which I have visited, and also getting all the data and bounce back the data with them. We have the Ministry of Agriculture, we have the academician from UKM as well as from UMS, and then of course the Ministry of Rural Development. Because you see, when it comes to electrification, rural, specifically when you have the word rural, there are just too many bodies that are involved. It is not as direct as you just meet the state head and then you can have this implemented. They are just multilateral, multi-helixes, multi-actors. So here I engaged the local with 19 stakeholders with micro communities. And the technology which I'd like to introduce was micro hydro. Why? Is because most of these communities, they are far and hard to reach, especially the terrain and so on. But they are all located next to a river. And because the river is life, right? Water is life to them. And that is where their culture started. And that is their mode of transportation and also mode of income. And the technology which I like to introduce was actually something beyond what is conventional, such as Archimedes, Vortex Hydro, and hydrokinetic. Reason being is like most of the technology being implemented, they are all heat-driven or pressure-driven. But this particular technology has not been tested over in Malaysia, and that's when it was being discussed. I was in the brink of bringing in two technologies, one from India and one from Germany, to test out in some of these sites. Okay, thank you very much. So let's work together and bring in sustainability to the rural communities. And thanks I yield for the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alvin, for such an interesting topic on how to achieve the compliance to the SDG goals. Once again, thank you, the two speakers today, Dr. Yang and Mr. Alvin, for the sharing today. So let's move on to our session, our Q&A session. May I invite Dr. Yang and Alvin back to the screen. And there are already a lot of questions by some of the participants. Okay, let me start with question to Dr. Yang from Dr. Chiu. There are a few questions here, 3 questions. Maybe I will just go, you just have to look at the 3. How far are we from the targets you showed? And the second one is, can you elaborate more about Elon Musk's 1 million miles target? And the third one is for storage where energy to weight ratio is not important. And when we can move away from lithium, what is the trend now? Is flow battery gaining ground? So Dr. Yang, maybe you can actually get to your screen and answer the question.
I want to answer them one by one. So because I didn't write down your question just now.
Okay.
Can you repeat the first question?
Sure. Okay, I'll go one by one the question again.
Sure.
First question, how far are we away from the targets you showed?
I think from now on 3 to 5 years.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, very soon.
And then the second question, can you elaborate more about Elon Musk's 1 million miles target?
1 million miles battery pack, it means that with this particular one battery pack, you can travel for 1 million miles. So you can, yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask this question. Is it physically possible a battery pack can travel 1 million miles?
It's possible. I mean, you can charge and discharge. That means per battery lifetime. So 10, 20 years, you can travel 1 million miles. It's not for one charging.
Yeah, it's not for one charging. It's multiple charge, and basically the battery duration lasts for 1 million
miles. Yeah.
And also your target for this 3 to 5 years very optimistic.
Yes.
You are talking about cutting the lithium-ion battery down by half, more than half. And you also talk about storage and this charging down to 10 minutes.
Yes.
There's a very ambitious sort of thing because we have been talking about this a long time. Because I know in National University of Singapore, we have a group have been working on this problem for a long time, Professor Luli and others.
Yes.
Yeah, I have retired, so I don't follow what they are doing now. But at that time, I know that they have been talking about this for a long time. And up to now, I don't know what's the progress now. And if you say you can do it in 3 to 5 years, charging is very, very impressive.
Yeah, Prof. Cho. So I think the fact here is the 1 million miles battery pack has already been commercialized by Elon Musk. So their battery pack currently is 1 million miles battery pack.
But you're also saying that the battery lasts for 3 to 7 years. Remember?
Okay. So the 1 million battery pack already being commercialized, fully commercialized by this Tesla cars, and then they are further sort of optimized. Every year there is a Tesla battery day, and then they will announce the new technologies and the new innovations in the battery pack. And the one particular thing they mentioned is 1 million miles battery pack. So that means per battery pack that you can travel for 1 million miles. And if currently their policy is that they have like a free change of battery pack. So if your battery pack, weighs 7 to 10 years is sort of the performance decrease, you can get a free battery pack from Tesla cars, and this is their policies. So the parameters I'm mentioning just now, so is the current commercial available, so that you can buy from the off-shelf product. Those parameters are around 7 to 10 years. Is the standardized parameters of factors from the batteries that are available from market. And then the target It's not only for myself, it's for everybody. So all this battery research community, we are looking at the new generation batteries in that categories.
Basically, what they are doing is they are guaranteed the battery for 1 million miles, not the same battery.
The same battery can also utilize for 1 million miles. Yeah, charging and discharge. So currently, their battery lifetime can be more than 10 years.
Yeah, because to travel 1 million miles would take many, many years.
Yes, more than 10 years, 10 to 20 years.
I'm surprised by that, yeah.
10 to 20 years, yes.
I don't think we can travel 10, in Malaysia, I don't think you can reach 1 million miles.
Then you are safe. You have one Tesla car is enough. No need to change battery.
No worries, Prof. Chiu. Maybe it's time for us to travel around ASEAN. Okay, there actually a third question for Prof. Chiu is actually for storage where energy to weight ratio is not important and when we can move away from lithium, what is the trend now? So, and of course, is flow battery gaining ground?
Okay, so for now in commercial sort of real commercial batteries, I don't think a flow battery is sort of having being fully explored in the applications. So flow battery, there are a lot of sort of applications for flow battery, but then in terms of electrical vehicles and sort of other vehicles or like a device, electronic device, I think a flow battery is a little bit far from to apply in those fields. And then for the real application for flow battery, there are sort of for example, the flow battery is easy to build into large scale. So for the larger scale of power plant, or that for systems to have a grid energy being stored in certain large tank, a flow battery could have their applications. But then for electrical vehicles, it's a little bit hard for
No,
flow battery. Yeah.
Definitely it's not for electrical vehicles. Because I think in this sustainable energy thing, solar and wind, when you generate so much power, storage is a big problem. Yeah.
Sure.
You cannot use lithium-based storage system where it's too expensive. Should be other methods. That's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah.
What's a trend of research? Have they found a solution?
For flow battery is being utilized in large scale power plant. And then for us, I will actually, my group, we also do a little bit of liquid based battery system, but that is not our purpose is not for storage, is not for energy storage, is for battery recycling. So when the battery has been terminate, finish their working lifetime. So we make the battery electrode into slurry, and through this flow through system, we just shortlist the material that we can recycle. So that is our application for flow through system, the flow battery system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dr. Yang. I think there's a question. I think Dr. Yong raised up his hand. Maybe Dr. Yong, you want to
Yeah, this question is for Dr. Yang. I just want to ask, firstly, this lithium sulfur battery, I think there's one company in Korea already commercialized. Are you aware of it?
Yes, there is a Korean company has commercialized the lithium sulfur battery. Yeah.
So in this case, lithium sulfur in terms of, I think cost-wise, it also has come down tremendously, right? Compared to lithium ion. So what do you think the future will be for these lithium sulfur batteries in terms of replacing the lithium ion batteries?
So the full commercialization for lithium sulfur battery ideally will have the cathode material to be pure sulfur, and then the anode material to be pure lithium metal, because the lithium this cathode anode need to be matching. For the sulfur, it has a high capacity 1670 milliampere hour program, but then you need to have a matching sort of like metal electrode to to combine together to form a system. So as far as I know, the Korean company, they are not making this lithium metal and then a pure sulfur based battery yet. Is a combined, composite electrode, not a pure sulfur electrode. So the sort of our capacity, full capacity, not reached to this like 4,000, 3,000 level of like a system yet. So there are research space for us to study how to make a lithium metal and sulfur into our like pure metal and pure sulfur based system for energy storage. At the same time, as I mentioned in the presentation, there are safety issues and then cycling issues need to be settled before we can sort of further explore the application for lithium sulfur battery.
Okay, just follow through with this another question from a commercial angle. Do you think within how long that the current price of a battery will drop by 50%?
Drop by 50%?
Yes.
That depends on the materials availability. For example, if you look at the Tesla cars, they are currently shifted from lithium manganese oxide and lithium cobalt oxide to lithium nickel oxide. The reason for that is nickel is actually widely available in the US, so they don't need to shift the metals from Australia or other countries to make the electrode. They can use the local sort of material to generate the electrode, and that is one of the particular reason that their battery price can be sort of keep decreasing over the years. So I believe that within that 5 to 10 years, the battery price will definitely further go down. And then whether wait is the day that we can reach half price battery, I cannot determine that by myself, but then I believe with the collective effort from the researchers globally, and that target can be reached for about 5 years.
Okay, because we hope that the same situation will happen like what the solar price has dropped for the last 3 or 5 years to almost half, within less than half, I think now, commercially speaking. So we hope that direction will happen for the battery as well, because battery and solar will go as a combined joint items for energy storage. I think this
Definitely,
one,
yeah.
okay,
Definitely.
Thank you, Dr. Yang, for
Thank
very
you.
good presentation to us. Yeah, thank you again. Right.
Thank you, Dr. Yang, and also Dr. Young for the question. I think there's one question from Prof. Chu to Alvin.
Sure.
The question, I think he actually directed to Mr. Alvin. I think China has lifted millions of out of poverty. Is there any lesson that Malaysia can learn? And also there is standalone solar base with battery storage system to provide electricity into inaccessible places. Has it been adopted? And is it cheaper than the micro hydropower system that Mr. Alvin has presented? Okay, Alvin, maybe you can have a quick answer to that. Oops, can't hear you. Alvin, you have muted your mic.
Okay, I believe that China's situation and Malaysia's situation is very different, right? But then again, talking about has this been adopted? Okay, the thing that I'm presented is not so much on the technology, it's more towards the model and also a policy advocacy, as well as trying to see if there's any possibility of doing a pilot project. See, if let's say we do not have the policy in place, we try to do some of these pockets, it's not sustainable to be able to replicate it, right? For example, there is a very famous social entrepreneur. His name is Adrian Lasimbang, right? And he was recently being made a senator 2 years ago, and I interviewed him a couple of times. And one of the key things that he does is he actually get funds all the way from overseas, and he tried to implement, and if successful, but he's only successful on that very area. I said, can we not replicate it? He said, there's not enough policy and political will for us to push towards that direction. That's when I'm trying to convince the government by meeting the right people, even to SEDA, because the previous CEO was IR Sanjayan. I actually met up with him. And he said he's willing to revive the social feed-in tariff in order for it to support on this particular kind of concept to help improve social economy. That's all.
Alvin, for the question. There's another question from Lao Chan to Engineer Lao Chan to Dr. Yang. While Elon Musk can talk about million miles battery, we need suitable charging systems. This will impact on the electricity utility supply system. How can this requirement be coordinated to achieve a holistic development where different players have perhaps conflicting objectives, especially from the economic perspective?
Yeah, so first of all, I thank you for the question. I think like for the charging station or charging system, I'm not very sure about the other ASEAN countries, but in Singapore, I think the government is going to install more than 60% of charging station within the next few years, because in this coming August, Tesla cars is going to be officially available in Singapore. I guess they have received a certain certificate, and then the price is actually not very high, I mean, compared to the current price. Once the customers buy the electrical vehicles in a more sort of affordable way, so the car price actually is continue to go down over the years. So like, you can more people can afford an electrical vehicle. And I believe there are needs, and demands from the customer to build those charging stations. And then I think with the government sort of a policy to go for sustainable society, and then with more reduction in carbon dioxide, I think that is kind of like a trend that government want to see in the next few years. And with that, I feel that the charging system will come together with affordable electrical vehicles like very fast, maybe in a few years only. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Yang, for the answer. Perhaps one question from AAET itself. I believe today we heard two good talks from Dr. Yang and Alvin. Perhaps one question from us is for AAET. How could AAET actually support your initiatives and also support your activity, your research, as well as also the research done by Alvin as well? Or how could Alvin or even Dr. Yang work together? I believe there's actually ways, especially like Dr. Yang is on energy storage, and Alvin is actually looking at how to actually implement it in rural areas and so on. Perhaps we start with Mr. Alvin first. Oh, you muted your mic.
Yeah, we have to always unmute. Okay, thank you. I think that is an excellent platform. I think that there's a reason why AAET actually aspired to do such a thing, right? And I believe that what Dr. Yang does, right, is actually something that is more towards, personally, all right, it's very it's high technology, and it's more towards profitability. You see, if we were to look at sustainable development, that's people, planet, and profit, right? There's always a focus on that particular area of research, right? For mine, it's actually more people-centric. Whether or not that application can be used at a very minimal cost or at a very good rate, right? And the application is high power, high charging, and so on and so forth. But I actually did read some of Dr. Yang's paper, and it is astounding, right, how technology actually changed and moved in such pace. Because about 7 years ago, when I first gotten the award, one of the winner from Philippines was actually into this particular, and she went to Europe to do her PhD. When she came back, I asked her simple questions like, what's so different between your particular research compared to Tesla, right? And that is how it continues on. Okay, coming back to your question, what is the area that AAET and us can actually work along? That's when, if the model suits and wherever such needs arises, that's when we actually would like to work alongside together. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin, for his answer. Dr. Yang, your side.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. Thank you, Dr. Rio. I think there are like definitely a lot of opportunities for us to work together, especially for us. We are working on a very scientific topic, as like Evan mentioned just now. He's working on more people-centric sort of research area. I think the combination for this two research area are very essential actually. So when you're just trying to solve this fundamental issues, you also want to hear the feedback from the people and hear the feedback from and demands from the market. I think that is definitely very important to us. In terms of AAET, I believe that this is a very excellent sort of platform for all the young researchers and then also the entrepreneurs and then also the innovators, because most of the time we want to have a platform to have a conversation and then also know what the other people are doing currently, and that is a very important part of our life. And that in particularly AAET has has set that platform for us. And the other thing I want to say is that with more activities involve those young people or even students will be very helpful for AAET, because currently I think only the sort of our high level students or like researchers or like scientists, they get to know AAET and then participate in the activities. But then in general, for undergraduate students, for example, or like other young students, they may not know there are such a platform for them. And then to give access to those younger generations will be very important as well. And the other thing I want to say is that AAET actually also play a very important role to promote our research. So in my case, as I mentioned, that when I first received this AAET award, I'm just start my career as a young assistant professor. So I really feel that the sort of recognition and then the like a sort of support and then also the publicity generated by this AAET award has given me a lot of confidence, a lot of new connections, and a lot of new opportunity to get a research grant. So those are all important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yang, for such an inspiring message to us, especially also to the young. So perhaps the next one we will actually try to invite more young entrepreneurs as well as young green entrepreneurs to join us and also listen to the breakfast chat as well. Okay, let me see whether I can do the final question, because we are already at 11:30 in Malaysia. So any final questions? Let me see if there's any. If no, then
maybe I ask a quick question.
Yeah, hey, Prof. Lam. Yes.
Doctor will be fine. Call me Lam will be fine. We are a close family in AAET. Thank you very much for Alvin and Dr. Yang to give a very interesting presentations. I think for Alvin, it's quite impressed me because I'm working on tidal current turbine. So your small hydro thing is quite exactly the same with me. So my question is, do you have any pilot plan now in small hydro in Sabah? So what's the exact target group on that? Is any funding support from the community, from the government to make it happen? So that's my two questions to Alvin. So for Dr. Yang, yeah, battery is very interesting because we always think about the zero emissions. Bill Gates always put a lot of things like to promote this thing. So I think Tesla is very successful, but it's quite limited to developed countries. It's quite expensive to developing country. So if like Malaysia as a developing country, maybe most of the ASEAN country is a developing country. Is there any flexible EV solutions is able less expensive compared to Tesla is able to implementing to Malaysia and other developing countries? That's my question. My questions. Thank you.
Who shall start first? Maybe Elvin.
Okay. All right. We are supposed to end in 11:30, or we can actually stretch forth. Huh?
We can stretch for a bit more. Okay. Maybe a bit more, not an issue.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the question. At the same time, I think that IR Lau's question has not been answered. Okay. Maybe I answer both together. Is it okay with you, Yang?
Yep. Can.
Okay. Yeah, I think Lau actually said it correctly. There's a discrepancy between SAIDI and also rural electrification. Yes, that's why the policy implementation and recommendation, right, of association is to help achieve both. It is not so much on just on the traditional rural electrification. Yep, and of course, besides micro hydro, other renewable energy sources are most welcome. Okay, coming back to the question by Doctor, there are actually more than 20 sites implemented in Sabah. Even in Peninsula, there are close to 10. But most of the areas that we're looking at, right, is it's not just on technology centric, right? Reason being is because it is actually the model behind it. Okay, let me just explain to you this particular site where Lasimbang actually implemented, right? So I asked him, I said, what is the charging mechanism? How do you charge these people? Do they get free electricity? He says that most of the time when it's free electricity, it will not last more than 5 years. All right, I mean, this is human, right? You know, when it's free, let's use it until it's spoiled. Okay, so you see, it is not just about the technology. It's actually how do we make sure that the people is able to utilize it and everyone is able to benefit out of the whole thing. So that is where the research is pretty much lack. That's why when Lasimbang heard that I'm actually doing on the social end and on the policy as well as how the mechanism for this microgrid is able to sustain, he was overwhelmed. He says that there are many technology researchers which are due to their very specialty. Okay, so the system that we're looking at about 30 kilowatt to 100 kilowatt. And I need to emphasize the reason why the research is being done is so that they can generate electricity, sell it back to the grid, and the grid pay them. And that's when the sustainability come about, when we talk about empowerment, right? So so my focus is not so much of giving them electricity, because everyone can have electricity. In the end, they just sit down and laze around, or it is actually to empower them through trainings, for them to know that there's such a thing called AAET, or even green entrepreneurship, right? That's when the training will come in, and also to help them in their agricultural area. So is there any actual site? Not at this moment, but we have 5 potential sites with approval from the state government, the local authority, and also the community. I think that is something that is a bit long, far stretch compared to many projects that are already in place. Let me give an example. The renewable energy feed-in tariff has really, it is still available. That's why that's why I'm actually looking into hydro. And most of them are 10 megawatt and above, right? Although they are called mini hydro, they're actually, micro hydro is 100 kilowatt and below, depending on your definition. So why micro hydro? So that we can actually generate close to 3,000 to 5,000 ringgit per month per community. I think that is what it is. But not 100% of the money is being given to them like offhand, right? It is actually more centric towards empowerment, where most of these young people are not being empowered, as in like, what are the trends outside, what are the opportunity for employment, and also to sustain the system that is within the community, right?
I think that will be very interesting, because in China also do a lot of works try to eradicate the poverty, particularly in the rural area. Maybe another things you can just give you some idea. You can put the energy and water into a nexus. Just try to combine these two things, because we always try to think about that the clean water and the clean energies for the rural community.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay. Maybe the last question is actually what Prof. Lam has actually asked to Dr. Yang on the sources of EV.
Yeah, I think there are like different kinds of EVs. As I mentioned earlier, we have Tesla, but then there are like there are a lot of company actually they start to make electrical vehicles like Toyota, Hyundai, And then Apple, the Apple car is coming as well. And then there are cheaper options as well. In China, there is a company called Biyadi. I think they have fully commercialized a lot of low price electrical vehicles. But I also believe that in ASEAN country, there may be other small company, they just started to make a commercial EVs. So I believe the more affordable EVs will coming soon to ASEAN country and then many developing countries.
Yeah, because from the social economic point of view, most of the for myself, I would think that for the developing or underdeveloped country, maybe they are not in a good positions to accept the EV, because this will bring a revolution, but will bring the financial burdens. Try to imagine, like, if everything's like we change from the petrol vehicle to EV vehicle, maybe like we are using a mobile phone in our driving, but this is quite unaffordable. I think the world maybe need to think about, like, for the urgent needs. The Tesla technology is able to support for the developed country. How about some of the country developing and underdeveloped country, they are lacking behind? Yeah, that's the things I will think very interesting for the scientists as well.
Definitely.
I think thank you, Prof. Lam, as well as Dr. Yang. I think it will be a future, and we will be looking at EV and entrepreneurs in the coming years. Okay, I think because of the time constraint and limit, and I do not want to actually lengthen it. I think we had a very long Q&A as well, a very good one. Perhaps I would like to get Engineer Chu to say some final words before we close the event. Engineer Chu?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, clear.
Okay, I think I would like to take up Professor Yang's suggestion that we should now concentrate on the not so super young. We already have a category for the students under the Kuala Lumpur Engineering Science Fair, which I would categorize as super young, because they are just up to the level 8 or level 9 level. To get them together on a platform to exchange their scientific experiences. Now we also have the next stage will be the young engineers. Those are the young AAET fellows, which are between maybe 45 to 35. But we are missing out the students, like that was expressed. So perhaps we will try to find some way in which we can include these people into the AAET platform. And as a means of getting the awardees continuously involved in AAET affairs, I will just take the initiative from this point on. At this point, if both the speakers are agreeable, I will invite you all to be. I will nominate you to be a fellow of the AAET, so that we can continuously have your involvement in our affairs. That is what I think that I would like to just share this opinion. If you are agreeable, then we will focus on the line. Please send the application form to them, and then we invite them to be our fellow, so that they can continuously be all the time on this platform. To also, in a way, show off what are the talent and knowledge that we have within the ASEAN Academy of Engineering and Technology, which we can, of course, share with our ASEAN neighbors, and maybe even out to the South countries, which are very much involved in helping to the development in science and technology. That's all. Thank you very much. I think it's been a very successful second business chat, breakfast chat. Please carry on, Yao Chia Fong. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Chu, for the final words. Now, before we end, just a quick one, because as you know, today's event is to promote on the AAET Green Award, and we will be organizing the AAET Green Award again, 2021, and do encourage your friends, your colleagues to also be part of AAET Green Award winners, and It is available and eligible to all individuals aged 40 and below. And in the ASEAN states, for those interested, you'll be able to, you can actually be in reducing greenhouse and so on. And we would, those in the countries who are interested, do contact the various contact person and to get the forms ready and submit before the closing date, which is on 31st July. And hopefully, we will be actually doing the award giving ceremony in the KL Science Fair. It could be virtual, it could be physical, depending on the situation in Malaysia in November or October. So for further details, the link is there. Do actually click onto the link, or you can contact Dr. Folk, who is also here today. And let's drive this Green Award and bring more green entrepreneurs to this particular platform. And like what Engineer Chu has mentioned, we will be seeing each other again on the third breakfast chat. We'll be arranging another 2 or 3 more speakers to join us and share their success stories. And it will be most likely in 2 months' time. And we hope that all of you can join again, and of course learn from the other winners as well. So with that, I believe Dr. Folk, is there anything else?
Yes, that's all. Yeah. Yeah, very good session today.
Yeah, a very good session, a very lengthy session, and a lot of Q&A session and also interaction. So with that, I believe we will have to end our session today. And have a good weekend. Stay safe, and we hope to see each other again. Maybe a photo session.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, also see. Okay, ready? Yeah. Okay, please turn on your video. Your video. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Congratulations to the presenters.